is what we should do. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Morrison, and second. Second by Commissioner Lyle. Discussion, all right, seeing none, all in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Untitled. Motion passes.
Are you home? When you go to YouTube, Washington County, Tennessee government. I tested it twice this morning. It's not on. Washington County, Tennessee government. And the audio is pathetic. I don't see it.
All right, this time we'll go ahead and open the floor. They signed up for the public comment. We'll be given 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. Comments will be limited to those items that are on the agenda. Tonight, we have no one signed up for public comment. However, we do need to open the public hearing for these rezoning. One rezoning to consider this evening. That's the Philadelphia Development, LLC, 12 civil districts.
Yeah, when I tested it this morning, I left it on there.
Agriculture requesting to go to
Yep.
all of them.
Washington County, Tennessee Commission. Yeah.
Signed up to speak.
Oh, well, I'll just have to report it. All right, thanks, Brett.
Those in favor of rezoning, we'll start with this first. At least 4 people, if you are in favor of the rezoning, if you will come forward, please, and give your name and address to the clerk. If you will come to the podium. So the first one to come forward is in favor of the rezoning. Just come here.
My name is Jonathan Lewis. I live at 4605 Bristol Highway in Pine Flat. I'm the engineer, the civil engineer for the subdivision, the new Philadelphia subdivision. We've been working with the city staff to overcome any obstacles. We've completed the plans 100% and per county regulations. Those are in review right now with the county, and we do not expect any significant changes to those plans or significant comments that we'll have to address. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have concerning the subdivision or anything related to it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. All right, next person that signed up to speak.
Ethan Buckingham, 453 Douglas Shields Road, Grayson, Tennessee, 37615. I'm one of the partners, one of the 4 partners in on the development. It's an existing neighborhood of Dillondale. We call it phase 5 and 6 on Red River Road. Fairly popular subdivision back in its time. They're just trying to expand on it, and we're trying to build it to where we had at least 0.7 acre lots, but they're all spread out. Don't have a lot of water runoff and a lot of issues. Mostly 1 acre lots there. We're just trying to keep up with the demand, maybe get a lot of people coming in. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Richard Tucker, Tucker Home Builders, and I'm one of the partners, one of the 4 partners in on Gillendale. And we're just excited about getting started out there and try to build some new houses out there. So we hope you all take that consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, speaking opposition to the request.
My name is Ruth Martin. I live at 237 Arthur Fox Road. We have a farm that joins this proposed subdivision in the back. It's not that I'm opposed to the subdivision. I just want them to be a good neighbor. We have over 100 head of cattle that we run. We've been through this before. We have opened up farms where when the subdivisions were built, they threw their junk over on us, their plastic bags flew over on us, the cow ingest plastic bag that will kill them. They throw their shrubbery over on us. We've lost 3 cows because of that, because of poison shrubbery. Their dogs chase cows. We've lost cows, we've lost calves, the dogs chasing them. I just feel like that this farm has been a farm for over 150 years. We need the developer to build a chain link fence with barbed wire on top to keep the people on their side and let our animals live on our side. We have a 22-foot pond. We have barns. We don't need kids around the pond. We don't need kids climbing in our barns, getting hurt and suing us. We shouldn't have to hire a guard because we run a business too. And this subdivision is on the opposite end of the farm. So we would have to hire a guard to go over and shoot dogs and call the law for trespassers. So there just needs to be a fence that keeps them on their side, and our cows, our barbed wire fence will keep our cows on our side. The developers make a lot of money. I don't think it's too much to ask that they build a fence to protect farms and protect farm animals. Thank you very much.
All right, that'll conclude our public hearing. We'll go back into regular session. Mr. Strong, would you come forward to the podium? Give us a rundown of this resolution and staff recommendation.
The total area for this rezoning request is approximately 38 acres. The request for the R1 zoning district is to allow for the existing extension of Hillendale subdivision, which is also zoned R1. The petitioner is proposing to provide 45 new single-family lots, and the planning commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of this rezoning at their September meeting. May I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, the concern that Ms. Martin had, is that something that the planning commission took up as far as building some type of a fencing to separate the farm from 38 lots, that's 38 new houses, a lot of people, so I can see where she's coming from.
Of course. Ms. Martin did speak at the public hearing and planning commission, so it was discussed. A fence is not a requirement of the development. It's something that certainly the owner, the developer could agree to on their own, but it's not a requirement and it's not a condition that we can impose for the purpose of rezoning, since it's not something that's required in the code when you have a single-family development against an agriculture use.
When she brought it up, did the developer agree to do it, or any comments made?
The developer agreed to talk with her about it. I wasn't privy to the conversations that they have, or if they had, or what's happened since that time, but he did state that he was agreeable to have that conversation. Yes, sir.
I don't know, Chairman, the developer's here, could he come up and tell us if that's something or not, or can we ask that to him? I'd like to know if they've had a conversation to agree to something.
I think as long as there's no objection, I think trying to get this done tonight is what we're all here to do. So, well, I'd like to answer that question. Have you all worked out anything to work out?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to interpose objection. I want to be careful that we do this correctly. It's my understanding of the law that that's not an appropriate, you can't, if you're looking at zoning as opposed to a site plan, I don't think we're allowed to impose that kind of question or that kind of requirement on somebody. It's either appropriate for that use or not. Ms. Charles can probably answer that, or the county attorney will.
I think my question was, had they spoken, have they had the opportunity to speak, have they spoken? I don't think it's relative. That's my judgment is relative to whether they had anything worked out or not. If they had the opportunity to meet. If they haven't, it may be a discussion that would have defer this out and give it more time to speak if that had to be done. So that was my only question. Have they done that, or have they done that opportunity? I'll defer to the county attorney.
If the question is, if the question is, if the question is whether or not this additional requirement is under discussion, that's outside this commission applying that standard to what's being requested here. As Charles has said that, I think I heard her say that offense is not a requirement of the code, is that correct? Correct. And so I don't think it's a violation of any rule if there's just a desire to have an understanding of something that was discussed at the planning commission, how to resolve. But I don't think that this commission should think that that is a requirement of the code when it is not. And that's based on Ms. Charles' expertise with the code. So procedurally, I would think that you could find the answer to that question in order to move the business along, but I would caution you not to use the answer to that question in determining whether or not a standard was met. Does that make sense?
I just wanted to ask, if you will, which property adjoins Miss Martin? Is it? I'm assuming it's the larger section.
Yes, sir.
And so, in terms of a potential fence, you're talking about the fence being on the longest stretch of the subject property.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I noticed that in the community or the commission meeting, there was questions about runoff and just mitigation of all of that. And I don't really know how planning handles, you can just see the subdivisions on all sides of the photo coming together and kind of encroaching on any last bit of green space or this farm, for example. How do you all answer those questions? Like, what's the, is there like a maximum amount of development that you can do, or what are the concerns about runoff? Why is that a concern in this particular project?
Yes, that's a really good question. We addressed that during the subdivision process itself, specifically with the preliminary plat. There are construction plans associated with that. So within each lot, there's a certain amount of lot coverage you can have in your impervious area, with your house, driveway area. And then overall with the subdivision, there is a basin that's designed to capture stormwater. And there's also a water quality device that's installed to treat that water. So the idea being, what the engineer is telling us is that post-development runoff is not going to exceed pre-development runoff. So you're not going to see an increase in water leaving that site.
Do you mean the
engineer that we heard from earlier, or?
Yes, the developer's engineer submits the plans to the county, and then our engineer reviews that work for meeting our codes and requirements.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Commissioner Whalen?
Mr. Chairman, some of the questions, including the fencing, would be more appropriate, in my opinion, when we deal with the site plan and our staff deals with that. That's where our buffering requirements that would include potentially fencing would come up. Again, I think the zoning, what we're supposed to look at is whether it's appropriate use of the property. And given the subdivisions in the vicinity, appears to me that it would be appropriate use. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the rezoning.
Commissioner Wheeler makes a motion to approve the resolution. Commissioner Eaton?
I too would like to hear from the developer
Oh,
about.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay,
That's
let
a question.
me get a second here.
Second.
You have a motion. Second by Commissioner Davenport.
Mr. Chairman, are we still in public hearing?
No, we moved that.
Okay.
Commissioner Eaton?
I was just going to say, I too would like to hear from the developer on this issue between the, whether they've had, just what we talked about earlier, whether they've had a chance to talk, whether the relationship here as David moving forward is going with it. Not that it has, I agree, it has nothing to do with whether it qualifies for the rezoning, and it's not going to affect my vote, but since the question's been raised, I'd like to have the information. If they're willing to give it, and if that's appropriate.
Well, I think they raised objection. I think Commissioner Wheeler pointed out that some other phases as far as the planning commission of what it is. So I think the county attorney would be, my question was similar to that. I just want to know if they had an opportunity to discuss it.
And it may be helpful with Ms. Charles here, in the context of zoning, as I appreciate it, what you're bringing in front of this commission is the context of planning and development, and whether dividing the community into these districts, regulating the bulk and the location and the use of the building and the property. That's what's in front of the commission with this resolution. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And so the fence and whether or not there is a fence is not in front of the commission this evening. It's just whether or not this zoning request would be approved.
Correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Commissioner Harris?
I guess I go back to my original question. I have to disagree with Chairman or Commissioner Wheeler. I mean, we're voting tonight to change a property. We're helping these people, which I'm glad they're developing property. It's great. But also, I think that citizens in this county, when they come in and have a question, that we should at least get an answer for them. This lady has a farm that adjoins these people. We're going to go in and change all that for her. Yeah, we're not even going to let these people answer a question of some information they've talked about. What is our job? We're commissioners. We represent people. So this really bothers me that we can sit here tonight and not allow some type of conversation to go on when it's already happened at the planning commission level. I'm not voting for it for that reason. I think we should allow people to speak.
You're welcome, sir. I'll come back with you. Thank you. All right. Motion, second. Commissioner Whalen?
To the extent I'm holding up anybody discussing something, I mean, again, I would think that discussion is more appropriate after this, before they come back to us with plans.
When do we approve plans? I've never seen a plan approved
The
before.
planning commission will.
We haven't. We're changing it, not the planning commission. When have we approved the plan?
Let's go back and forth.
Again, the concern I have is that if we disapprove this on a basis that's not legal, it could be challenged. And we're talking about something that has nothing to do with our decision tonight.
I disagree. It's got something to do with her. She owns the property next to it.
I understand, but the decision we have to make tonight is not about that. But I will withdraw my objection if that will speed things up and move things along.
I feel like we have the advice of our attorney and we have a motion to second on the floor. I wouldn't want to open up. I wouldn't want to go back to it now. Our attorney gave us some advice. I try to take the advice of our legal counsel.
So can I call the question?
Yes, Commissioner Taylor.
I could be wrong, but I thought the attorney said it would be okay to find out the answer to that question. Did I hear that wrong?
I didn't hear it that way, so.
And what I said was that the information that you've been provided by Ms. Charles is that whether or not there's a fence is not germane to the zoning issue. And so what I was telling you is that if you did get an answer from that, this was before there was an objection, then I would caution you not to apply standards on an individual that were not under the law. And then what I shared with you subsequent to that was that what is in front of you is the context of community planning and development. And that is whether or not to divide the community into the districts that are being presented to you in this resolution. And that's for the purpose of regulating the bulk and the location and the use of buildings and property generally. So it's not about a fence here or negotiating the terms of a particular subdivision, but it's whether or not that use, is that the right word, Ms. Charles, use with respect to zoning? So you're at a different level, and that's the question that's in front of you with this resolution. And I don't know that a fence, if, for example, a fence made a difference in your determination of whether this property could meet that purpose, that would be a different issue. If there's no objection, I think you could just, by asking, I don't know if Ms. Charles has the answer, I think she said she was not party to the communication. But I think you should focus on what is requested in this resolution, which is the R1 designation under the zoning. That's what's in front of you.
I just tend to agree with Commissioner Harris that if we have a property owner that has a large boundary bordering them, I mean, they have a concern, it seems to me like it makes sense to get as much information as we can. And I don't know, that's just me.
Thank you, Karen.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to earn our money and vote on this. We can't talk it to death.
Mr. England didn't call the question. Clerk, take us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote, lock it in. 10 yes, 3 no, the resolution passes. Anything else, Ms. Charles?
That's all we have tonight, thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you both for all you do and for your hard work. We do not have any proclamations this evening, but enclosed in your packet is the minutes of the August 24, 2020 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners that's been previously found to you. We have a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Terry, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald, to approve, to accept the minutes of the August 24 meeting. All in favor of that motion, signify. Hold on, we have a correction. One correction that we would like to add, Commissioner Carrier, is on page 5. Resolution authorizing capital project funding for replacement of the sheriff's office radio equipment. The resolution number was left out of those minutes. It should be added above 200806. And that's on page 5. Mr. Carey, would you accept that?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chairman.
With those changes, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. I will step away from now from the podium. Clerk. Ms. Norton, take up.
Move to nominate some seats.
Are there any other further nominations?
Call for the question.
It's a vote by acclamation.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
You get speech? No, I would, but I don't have any microphone. I appreciate you all, I do. We each have a unique friendship and each day, and we all don't agree all the time. That's for sure, isn't it, Commissioner Harris? Commissioner Wheeler, we all don't agree, but we have learned from each other every day. And I appreciate the relationship I have with you all. What a good time we had. And I'll continue to serve you this year. And any need that you have, please don't ever hesitate to contact me if I can help you. Thank you. How was that for a speech?
Nobody debated you though.
Oh, well, I'm going back up here before we get to any more debate. I'm scared. Thank you. being a responsible chairman, are we on? Being a responsible chairman, I think this time we need to take a recess for a few minutes. Have Todd work, we have no sound or video. So we can go ahead and do vice chairman, and then let's take a recess after that. All right, I'll go ahead and open the floor for nominations for vice chairman. Commissioner Eagle?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Wheeler.
Commissioner Wheeler? Second. Anyone else?
Close nominations.
Commissioner Jones has moved, nomination ceased. Commissioner Wheeler, you're elected by proclamation. Seconded by Commissioner England. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you, sir.
Do I? Oh. Is the overhead on, Todd? Is that what it is?
Well, that's not what's causing the issue, but I got you live so everybody can at least hear you better.
Okay. All right.
We'll work on each of them in just a minute.
All right. It is important that, we all be able to communicate through the microphones, and it is going out live, so. Allison, do you think we're okay at this moment, or?
Do we have live stream?
We have live stream. Is this on live stream? No.
It is being recorded.
Can they hear it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Audio's good.
Audio's good? Okay.
And so it's being recorded for posting at later, is that what I'm hearing?
Okay. So, I'm not the only one with a microphone. Everybody else can be heard, right? Okay. All right. All right, our next item is the resolution 2009-19, and it's a resolution confirming Allison Hill as county attorney for Washington County, Tennessee. Do I have a motion? Second. Motion made by Commissioner Fitzgerald, seconded by Commissioner Carragher to approve the resolution. Discussion? Questions? Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Next item is the County Mayor's report. Mayor Dandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have two brief presentations. One from Wright Ridge, CEO of Wright Ridge, Jeff Deitch is here, along with Stacey Evans, who is the leader of broadband. And they were here 6 months or so ago, maybe just a little before COVID, to talk about deployment of broadband in the county. And at that time, there was a plan that you all saw that put broadband in the county, mostly wireless. And that plan has continued to be implemented. Recently, due to CARES funding from the federal government through the state, Wright Ridge received a grant of some, I think it's $2.4 million, which had a matching component that brought the total spend for the projects to right around $3 million, which is significantly improved and speeded up the implementation of the system. And so it seemed appropriate, if this is brand new information and it involves the Part of Washington County, Smith Way, and also the schools. Ask Stacy to come and just briefly give us an update. The second report mentioned put together some year-end information from our financial, officially closed out FY 20, and financially, and it's generally committee about that, and we understand that very good. So, of course, Stacy, thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of give you an update on our grant funding fill out. First of all, when we look at opportunities for grant, the SEC guidelines really tell what areas or census blocks are eligible. If you look at the two light blue areas showing Bowmantown, Ducktown, Big Sandy, Glendale area, and also Pleasant Valley, the only two that really were available for any type of funding. And Bright Ridge did apply for funding back in July to the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. Since that time, as Mayor Randy mentioned, there was available CARES Act funding that we applied for. That was through the state of Tennessee, the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. With that, we applied for 7 grants. We were awarded 6 of those 7, and the one we did not get awarded, we were able to move through with our own funding. So none of those are actually at risk at all. So as Mayor Randy said, we got $2.47 million match from the state through federal funding they received, and we're contributing $618,000. So one of the major areas of deployment with this is, again, that Ducktown, Bowmantown, Glendale, Big Sandy area, and that is considered unserved. So those customers do not have any broadband opportunity at all today. The only thing they might have at all would be a satellite-based service. Some might have DSL with very low speeds. So with that, we are actually building over 37.5 miles of fiber, and this will be fiber to the home, so it will not be wireless. We have a full triple play of internet, video services, and telephone available to them. The grant is 8% match, which is incredible, and we're very glad for that because this is a very rural area, and to build that out, it's a difficult task without some additional assistance. So as of date, we have over 62% of the metal strand in place, and we have 38% of the fiber built. So we started this very quickly. It has a short time span requirement to get construction done, December 15th, to have everything complete. If it's not complete, it does not get reimbursed. So we obviously are under major time crunch to make it happen, but very well underway. We have already started drops to homes. So we have 55 homes already with fiber to the home. And as soon as we have a building we're putting in place called a point of presence for electronics that will be put in place this week on the 30th. And then we'll have electronics be received and be able to start turning those customers up. So this was a target for some time, but the opportunities weren't there to recently be able to do this. So we're very pleased, they're excited about this. And talking to some of those customers that had no opportunity for broadband and the challenges for students working from home and learning from home, people telecommuting, it's really exciting to hear that they're getting opportunities that didn't have before. The second area is in the Pleasant Valley location, kind of east of Sulphur Springs. About 48 customers passed in that one, and you can kind of see the build out, about $206,000 to build that out. Now each one of these, if you kind of notice that blue line going up to the gold area, that's really the grant service area. As we pass those customers, the grant won't pay for it, but we actually be adding customers along the way. So that previous one with Bowmantown was 556 that are passed with the grant. We have another 240 or more that will be able to add services to later. So that's what's really good about this. It's connectivity in areas that we can expand upon. Okay. So in addition to this, we applied for public Wi-Fi services. And so we worked with Washington County Schools. Dr. Flannery identified the 16 schools and what we could do. So we're building fiber to each one of those locations and providing public Wi-Fi in the parking lot. And this will allow students that don't have broadband at home during the times that the COVID issue does not allow them to come to school. They can come to the parking lot, download their assignments, complete that, upload it again. And I'll show a map in just a moment that will show you the coverage area where that's at. So I think we blanketed it pretty well. Now, Bright Ridge is committed to provide that as a free service to the community for the first year. Hopefully all the COVID situation will be way behind us at that time. And we'll look at opportunity to re-utilize that equipment and services as time goes on. Next week. And then we're also working with Johnson City Schools. There's 3 sites they identified to do the same thing, public Wi-Fi in the parking area. And we did the same way with Right Ridge Service portion of Sullivan County, community schools there too. And the other part of this, we selected 6 different community centers in areas that schools may not be as close to the students' homes, and we have extended services there. About $490,000 worth of building this. This gets us to some areas that like out past Fall Branch, the Glen Oak area, or Oak Glen area, sorry, and that community center. And as we're building that was come later and extend services to anyone along that fiber path. So we're talking about multiple hundreds of customers that would be able to get services at a future time. And that was really the thing here, is trying to serve the community for this particular need with COVID-related services and what can help mitigate that, but also planning for the future, something we can build upon and build that distribution network. And so if you look at all the little push pins that are red push pins, that shows you the areas, the school systems, and community buildings in Washington County that we're offering services. This is 1 gig to the public Wi-Fi in those areas. And it's not just for students, anyone else that would have need to pull to those community buildings and utilize the service as well. So that kind of gives you a broad scope of where that covers. It's all the way out to west of Fall Branch, as far down as Limestone Riverton Club, and so forth. Okay. And just to give you a quick update, by end of June of 21, so in the next matter of months, all the red area you see is what will be complete. So if you think about Bowmantown area, particularly over to your left side there, the large red area, that's the Bowmantown will be complete. The line below that shows you those additional customer passings that are not in the grant, but it will be activating for services. You see Jonesboro covered in the middle. Phase 3 of our builds at the top there on Gray and Boots Creek area. So that's what we expect to have completed for fiber-based services. You can turn to the next slide. This shows the towers that we have for wireless. The 4 at the bottom area are all turned up and active. The one in Pleasant Valley will be turned up in a matter of weeks. And then Fall Branch will finish some TDOT construction and expect to have that first quarter of next year online. So this will finish up the wireless portion through the current phase. We're in phase 3. And the next slide will just show you the composite with all that overlaid fiber build area, which will pass over 20,000 potential customer homes and businesses at that time, and then the wireless coverage as well. So be glad to answer any questions, but thank you for the opportunity to update you there. Any questions at all? Yes, ma'am.
I feel like I read 98% of those currently have access to internet services. So is this finished the 2% that don't?
Well, let me tell you about that. So the FCC, they log this based on census logs. So if any provider touches a certain number of customers, a small percentage of the census log, they count that to serve. What we found with the grant building this out, even though they say that are the only 2 areas that do not have services, it's not accurate because there's pockets of homes elsewhere, but they're in the census blocks that has options to some subset of the population. And so we are working with politicians as well as other people at the federal level to say there needs to be a way to really justify whether they have it or not, or clarify that, because today they're really being disenfranchised.
So there's still a small percentage that will not be.
There is.
And then, of course, that doesn't even get at the numbers of people who just can't afford to have connectivity. So they're the ones who need to use the free Wi-Fi area that people are saying that schools should be.
That's correct. That's an option for them. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
At the bottom of one of your slides, you said all of this will be free for 1 year.
Yeah, so basically, this was really based on COVID funding, so we're hoping to get past the pandemic and get to hopefully normal again. And hopefully those particular needs will, be obsoleted, but we want to work with the communities. If we can provide those services for other needs, we'd love to do that as well. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate you coming down.
Sure.
Okay,
Chapter. Good evening, everybody. County Department's been working hard during the month of July and August, and got the books closed, and you've got the final June 30 numbers in front of you, subject to audit. And our auditors are rapidly finishing up, and we hope that they'll probably be through during the next couple of weeks and have a report for you in mid-November. This first slide I want to look at or cover with you is a roll forward of our fund balances for our different funds. Go to the very last column on there, and you'll see the numbers that we utilized when we were working on the budget for this upcoming year for FY21. And those were the projected fund balances were the numbers that the budget committee and you as a commission ended up adopting as we adopted the FY21 budget. In all but really a couple of cases, we actually ended up much better than where we thought we would be on our fund balance. You can see in the general fund, we were roughly $300,000, $290,000 better than what we projected. Highway, which is due probably to some delay in some work, but they were $2.6 million better on their fund balance. And our capital projects fund was about $250,000 better than what our projection was when we were working on the budget. This shows the revenue and expenses for the year. Next slide, if you go to the next slide. This slide actually compares the budget revenues and the budgeted expenses with actual for each of the funds. And as you can see, we had about $1 million unfavorable variance in our general fund. Roughly $900,000 of that, though, was a transfer that we had initially budgeted from debt service fund. So it's not as bad as it actually looks. About $166,000 below budget. Where we had our real savings is in the operational expenses, and a lot of that's due. Well, all of it's due really to the officials, the elected officials, office holders, and department heads for working very diligently at maintaining their operating expenses as we came down through the pandemic at the end of the year and actually. So we had a $2.2 million favorable variance in our general fund expenditures. Solid waste, as we've been saying though, solid waste has with the lack of revenue off the recycling, Charlie's a little challenged there. We think we've got that somewhat fixed going into this next year, but you can see he had a small $119,000 loss in the fund, but still has a positive variance overall of $156,000. Highway fund, I mentioned that already. Go to the next one. Debt service funds. We were a little ahead on the revenue side. A lot of that had to do predominantly with business tax and interest income being allocated within the debt service fund. We received business taxes, obviously, from the state. Those numbers hit a little more favorably than what we budgeted. And then, as I alluded to when I was talking about the general fund, the expense line there, $900,000 favorable variance, $900,000 of that is the transfer that we didn't have to make to the general fund. So that's what gives rise to that total $1.3 million favorable variance in the debt service fund. Next slide, please. The capital projects, big piece of that a deferral or not actually getting into some of the projects. As you can see, we had about a $7.8 million favorable variance on the extend. Go to the next one. The self-insurance fund, which we use for our health insurance. Our revenues are right on. We targeted, what we budgeted is what we essentially collected. Claims were better than what we had anticipated. by almost $1 million, or a little over $1.5 million. So that ended up with favorable variance in the self-insurance fund. As you recall, we set a fund balance policy for the self-insurance fund earlier in the year, which is going to help maintain or control that fund balance so that it doesn't grow exponentially. We do need to have reserves there, which are essentially 6 months of claims expenses, but you don't want to continue to see this grow and grow and grow because it obviously takes away from other areas of the county. This slide is really just graphically how our revenues are split, what our revenue sources are. Of course, local taxes, which includes primarily property taxes, 61% of our revenue stream. State of Tennessee, which is split predominantly about half and half between prisoner board and the health department, represents about 11% of our revenues. As you know, the county officials, their commission, the elected officials, the trustee, the court clerks, register of deeds, they they take commissions on the transactions that occur in their offices. They turn those back in at the end of each month, and they contributed a little over $6.5 million, or 16% of our operating expenses, our operating revenues. We get a little bit of money from the federal government, about 3%. Again, most of that, probably 80% of that, is our federal prisoner board. Next slide. And then this is where the dollars go. Of course, public safety, consists of about $21 million, 52% of our general fund budget. Administration of justice, which is the courts, finance, which is the assessor's office, purchasing, and of course, the county budget constitutes the finance department, general government, the mayor's office, and codes and planning, and a couple others. Of course, public health is our health department, primarily our health department. So you kind of see how your resources are being allocated. Next slide. This one's real quick. This is our actual property tax revenue over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years for all our funds, excluding the schools. As you know, part of the property tax goes to the schools and it gets split with Johnson City. This is everything that really just comes into county government. And so you can see, this year we had a total of $46 million compared to $45.5 million last year. So we had a little bump up in property tax revenue. But over that 4-year period, our growth rate is a little less than 0.5%. So that's our revenue growth. And you go on that slide doesn't do much for us. This slide is hard to tell, but one of the bright spots in the general fund, at least until the pandemic hit, was in that first set of columns there, the licenses and permits, and you'll see that the actual is more than the budget. That's predominantly due to building permits. I mean, we were hitting it and getting it for building permits, and I think we're still in pretty good shape, but it was better than what we budgeted. Next slide. That just compared each of the departments where they were budget-wise compared to action or different portions of the government. This slide, real quick, is just I alluded to a minute ago the revenues that our fee offices bring in, the trustees, the register of deeds, etc. The blue line are the revenues, the tan or the orange line is their expenses, and then whether they have a surplus or a deficit is a gray line. So you can see the trustee handles a lot of money, takes the commission on all that money he handles. So he generates a fair amount, almost $2.25 million back into the county general fund. You can see where those all kind of hit. Court clerk, that's always tough. There's a lot of people working over there, and they've got probably the hardest collection job in the county. Trustee can at least sell you the property after a while. It's tough for all those folks that owe fines and fees and whatnot to the court to get those things done. And I think that really is about it. The rest of the slides that just shows the fairness stuff. And we'll send all this out to everybody and all this stuff will work here in the year. The financial statements are on the website if you haven't gotten them. If you want a hard copy, let Sherry know, and she will get a hard copy printed out for you of the June financials. And like I said, we expect to have the audit probably sometime mid-November. I'll entertain any questions. Hearing none, I'm going to sit down. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Pete.
Okay, we'll go back to this one. Mayor, is there anything else for the mayor's report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is the county attorney's report, Ms. Wilkins.
I don't have anything in writing for you this evening, but if you have questions that I haven't already addressed for you, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you. Any questions for our attorney? Seeing none, the next item is the director of the health department. I don't think Ms. English is here either. Do we have a new director yet, Mayor?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, we still have acting director, Rebecca.
All right. Maybe she can be with us next month. All right, Director of Schools, Dr. Flannery's here.
No report, after the answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Flannery. School is going well. We appreciate all you're doing over there. I know you got a big job. And
It's going to be 1-4-0 this week.
Wow. All right, our next item is the committee on committee reports. Commissioner Wheeler.
You find our minutes on page 19 of your packet, and we have a resolution number 20-9-02, resolution appointing members to the standing committee of Washington County Board of County Commissioners for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. Again, down on page 21 of your packet. That comes as a recommendation from the committee and move for approval.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Wheeler. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Any question or discussions? Have a motion or call for the question? Call for the question. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk announces the vote 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Wheeler?
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you all the committee members for doing a good job in getting those in on time, but I know that's a job for everybody, so we appreciate you all doing that. Sure do. All right, we have the County Industrial Development Board minutes in your packet from the September 17th meeting. Also, do we need a motion to accept those, or?
Yes, sir, these are
Just
draft
to review.
information purposes.
Okay. Thank you. The next item is the Employee Compensation Committee. I think Commissioner Harris asked me a question about this committee, and I think can we just cover that now, since that's employee compensation, Commissioner Harris?
Yes, sir. My question was, with all this COVID going on, prior to COVID, I attended several of those meetings for that committee. I know there was some things that were done along the lines of employees that were off work on workers' comp and getting their benefits straightened out. And I understand that, I guess at some point, the commission passed during this COVID an actual policy to change that. But my question was, the people who were affected prior to the policy put in place. Is there anything done for those people? They're the ones that brought it up. You know, there was some kind of a memo, I think, that was sent by the Portland County Mayor. And I think they were going off of a memo, not a policy, from what I understand, but never actually a policy. The memo that was sent started taking away days and pay from employees who were out on workers' comp. And then I think we addressed that. It's changed to go forward with the policy that would fix it. But what about the people who were affected prior to the policy that was put in place? Was anything
Not sure, Commissioner. I know Commissioner McAllister, Commissioner Davenport, were you on that committee?
I mean, the short answer is no, nothing was done. We did bring in counsel, and the way I remember it, and anybody else on the committee, please speak up, was on their advice, since we need to move forward, we make policies and we changed those policies, and we made a correction in that policy to benefit the employees of Washington County. And we looked at that as moving forward. Right before COVID hit, we had a meeting and to discuss this, and we actually put that vote off because we didn't have a big audience that day. And obviously, none of us knew COVID was going to hit, and then the next month, COVID hit. And I think we might even pushed it off a month, and then we saw we've got to get this in by budget. So we moved forward with it. That was the process. Okay, so that's how we looked at the back pay. At least that's how I remember it. Ms. Wilkerson and
I was looking to see if I could recall if it was July or August that there was a resolution in front of the commission. I didn't bring that with me this evening. You are correct, Commissioner Davenport, that if you've condensed, I think, probably about 6 months, I think, of the committee reviewing the issue, there was independent counsel brought from a firm outside, and we had him review and address the committee with his opinion with respect to whether or not the county was in violation of any statutory rights, and the county was not. But the committee did say that it wanted to provide something different going forward, and that's what this commission addressed in a resolution. And again, I can double check the date, but I believe it was July, which was to have that policy, and it was going forward. It was not retroactive, and that was discussed in the committee, as I recall.
So there was never a vote taken up on the people who brought this forward, the complaint over this memo. There was never really a policy prior, from what I understand. It was just a memo we were going off of. There was nothing ever voted on to look back at what we could do to correct the people who were, I feel like, were done wrong, and they were taking time away from what they deserved. Did we ever voted on that?
No, not in my recommendation. No.
Commissioner Eads.
I appreciate the information and the work that the committee did. I do it in a lot of those, as you remember. This may be a question for our attorney, I'm not sure, but I'm glad we have some kind of policy in place moving forward. But like I said, I was at a lot of those meetings, and we had military personnel involved that had lost time and pay both for military service. And I don't see any way that we wouldn't be liable in a lawsuit for that. If they were employed, which they were, and I think I'm almost positive there's more than one individual that was actually employed by our government in military assignment, and they had to forfeit or lost benefits and or time that they were accruing for that purpose, because we weren't recognizing that.
And if that's the case, and like I said, I guess I'll just do the attorney, you can jump in, no disrespect.
No.
But if that's the case, then I would like to know if I'm misunderstanding, or is that something we can be liable for? Because I know in more than one of the committee meetings, it was bantered back and forth about, these people, like one point it was even said, we've got a list of people that are already contacted attorneys, and they're prepared to take action against the county. They're hoping that this committee and this board of county commissioners will do something to restore their faith and to restore what they lost. And they don't want to do this, but they're prepared to do this. And I'm sure the committee members have to. I'm just curious. Are we liable for something there? If we don't, maybe we're going to do it in the future. Committees are getting ready to change. I'm sure this can be brought up again about what we do to restore the faith of our employees. We had sheriff's department deputies ran over by cars and if not disabled, were extended time off of work because of these issues, and they had experienced the same thing, of losing time, pay, and or one or the other or both. It did one for months, the committee addressed it like Committee Davenport said over and over and over, trying to address this and come to terms with everything. But it seems to me like is it a lot I don't know, or there's a lot that we'll be liable for. And if that's the case, not only because we're liable for it or possibly can be sued for it, but these are our employees. And if we took a dime from them or a day from them, we owe that back to them. And there shouldn't be a vote in the room that we vote that. So if that's the case, let's say we get to give them back what we owe them. I say that we get to a position where we can meet a lawsuit head on if we have one gun, and it seems like it's mine. Unless, like I said, I'm well misinformed from the least I've been. I think there should be no question there. And if that's not the case, then, I'd love to be great.
Commissioner Davenport?
I guess just quickly, that's why we came up with the plan that we came up with, was because of litigation. We were advised by an attorney that we need to move forward. So let me back up. That was my stance. It was not, I recognized the policy along with the rest of our committee that we did not like the policy. That's why we changed the policy. The reason that we did not go back, again, was protecting the county going forward in lawsuit. That the advice from that council was not to go back and backpedal. That's why I made my vote. So let me make that clear. I don't want to speak for anybody else on the committee. That would not be correct.
All right, Commissioner Evans?
Let me ask the attorney.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your information. Let me ask the attorney. It sounds to me like what I'm hearing is we fix this moving forward as far as dotting our I's and crossing our T's and covering all our bases moving forward. The county's going to be in good shape with this issue. Is there an issue of what's behind this? And the officers or other highway or whoever it was, or the cases that we have, is there an issue there unless, what's behind us is coming back up, that we have to face something there?
Yes, sir, I hear your question. And so first, I think I'd say this with some frequency, that the law always applies to the facts. And I've heard what you said this evening, and that is consistent with what some of the information that I was in those committee meetings, and Philip Baker was independent counsel for the county to advise on a very specific niche issue of employment law. Commissioner Davenport is correct that his recollection was that the advice of the lawyer was that first, there was no violation of the law. that what the county was not in violation of any statutory or constitutional requirement. And as you're pointing out, Commissioner Edens, there's a policy that the county wanted to do something beyond what the statute required, and that's what you considered a few months ago. One of the things that was discussed is that the committee does not serve as a tribunal. There is an appeal process for workers' compensation claims, and that is not a county committee. That is an actual board that reviews those, and that would be where those facts are actually adjudicated. That wasn't really discussed very much in those meetings, but it was always kind of a foundation of what Mr. Baker was sharing with the committee. That said, if this commission wanted to visit that issue, then what would have to happen, as I appreciate it, would be it would go back to the committee, and you would be presented with where do you go back? That was what Mr. Baker was talking about. Do you go back 2 years? Do you go back 3 years? What information do you require? What are you looking at? There was information provided from the county about forms that may or may not have been turned in at certain times. I won't comment on potential for litigation, even though I want to acknowledge that that's your question, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to, on the fly, provide an opinion and broadcast it when I don't have all the information. But I think if this commission is interested in that, it would not be to change an existing resolution, but it would be to ask that committee to take it up. I think that's what you'd be doing, and you'd want that information in front of that committee, presumably again, if they were willing to do that as to the past. But at what point, the question that was presented, at what point does it go back? And who chooses? That was the pending question in that committee. And so you would direct it back to them.
So when the employees, just so I'm clear, when these employees come, and they do, usually not required, okay? When they come, am I to direct them to you, or am I to direct them back to you?
I'm always happy to take a call. I'm a resource for the county.
You said, take it back before the community. And should I tell them that their recourse of action before they choose legal action is to go back to the committee, or is it to come and sit down with you, or is it with Michelle Stewart, or,
I hear your question, and I'm happy to facilitate that. I mean, this office, I can't provide counsel to individuals, but it's a resource to the county.
Well, what's your advice on what's appropriate for them, for their next step to be?
If they would like to meet with me, and I would be happy to get Ms. Stewart and the resolutions and set it out so that they understand it. But if they wanted action by the commission, it would be through the committee, and I would never suggest that they didn't have that right. But I'm happy to meet with them before the next commission meeting, before the next committee meeting.
I'm not certain that any of the committees on that committee, employee compensation, that was not on. I'm not sure who's on that committee or who's going to chair that committee, but without knowing that, I'd like to ask that committee and the future chair of that committee, please take note of what my questions tonight, because they're not complaints, they're questions. They're questions for our employees that we deserve to know everything, and it's going to protect our county from litigation moving forward. If that's a possibility, it would be a possibility. So I just really want to try to do is raise some issues that we're all kind of aware of. Some of us more than others are members of that particular committee, but it's something that could raise its head in the future. It's something that we could be faced with to address, and I think we'd be smart to address it now, or try to address it now, get ahead of it, and help our employees than I would be to wait and do nothing and find out that, hey, we're going to take our chances in court with a military man and a police officer or a highway employee or anybody that's got hurt on the job and, lost their time and or pay, and
probably shouldn't have ever been in that situation. So I'm going to address it to the committee. And I'm
Yes,
going to
sir.
tell them,
If
and I'm
you'd
going
like
to tell
to-
them that you're willing, that you'd be more than willing to speak to them if that's the direction they want to go. I'm going to address them back to the committee, whoever's on that committee. And I would appreciate those people, if you know who you are, I'm sure you do, being prepared to, to address this and to have this, this come before you and give it some purpose thought. And I know we got to protect our county and we got to be fiscally responsible, but I don't think we should put anything ahead of our county employees. I think we should keep them first and foremost. So that's all I've got to say about the matter, and I hope it works out.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Williams?
I was in one committee, I assume it's employee compensation, and we wanted to work it out, but it seemed that it's impossible for us to go back and back and back. We could open up many unfortunate requests if we go back. Now, the current ones, we certainly need to address, but I don't think we can say, if you've got a complaint, come forward. That's just not going to be feasible to me.
Well, I understand that. I'm not talking about complaints. I'm talking about lawsuits that may come forward. It may not come to us. We may just hear about it after the fact, and then we could possibly lose that lawsuit because we didn't address it when we had the opportunity to address it.
When I employee compensation, insurance can cover some of that.
Now, I'd just like to avoid it on behalf of our employees.
Yeah, let's see what comes out in the committee. I'm sure the committee will have an opportunity to look at it and have a chance to bring it back here to us, and maybe we can all review that. And I know they put some time in it before, so I happen to be on that committee this time myself, so I'll be. It's been a long time since I've served on that committee.
Well,
I'm low man, I'm on that committee, I'm going to stand down. All right, we do have a lot more stuff to cover tonight. Looks like our next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Edens, that's you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find the Q committee minutes on page 37 in your packet. I think we have 3 resolutions to bring before you. I'll read the resolutions, if that's okay for approval, and then if there's any questions from me or the committee members, we'll be happy to do our very best to try to answer them. So, that being said, first resolution to consider for review is resolution number 20-09-03. Resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021, Washington County Environmental Additional Funding for cleanup. This is up to city in the amount of $100,000. I'll bring that to you in form of a motion, sir.
Right, motion made by Commissioner Edens. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Lyon to approve the resolution. Open the floor up for discussion. Commissioner Tester.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, we've got 5 of these cleanups on the agenda later that this money is setting up to pay for. And my question is, are any of the 5 or all 5, are they actual health issues, health concerns, dangers to the public, or are they neighbors complaining against their neighbor because they've got their yard's not mowed or?
I'm not the person to answer that. I can speak to one of them that is included in this because it's in my district, and I've answered a lot of complaints on it, one sees people on it, and it is a dangerous hazard, yes. There's a lot of children, it's a burnt out house and outbuilding. It's what's left of it.
Can you tell us which one that is?
The one on Clyde Miller Road. I have to look back at the address, but there's a lot of children in the neighborhood on the street, and they can wander over that way and do, and vice versa. I mean, I can just speak to that one, that
I've got a lot of concerns in the district or around that neighborhood about the safety of their children around this particular property. The other ones I can't speak to. Mr. Francis is with us. I don't know if anybody from budget might have more information from, you know.
Well, those five were the five that the judge had heard, isn't that correct?
Yes,
The
sir.
environmental court had already heard those and ordered those for cleanup. So
Yes, sir.
that's kind of how they came up with those five that had been kind of pending.
I'm just saying, I can't answer to how hazardous and dangerous they are.
And that's my question. And I guess as a follow-up to that, moving forward, is the committee gonna, I don't know, try to vet these a little more on the front end? I know that's been part of this discussion the last year or so, is the process of how these things get to us.
Yes, sir, I think the committee's put a lot of time in that, and I think the budget has put an equal amount of time in that, and with the new committee going forward, I'm hopeful, is all I can say.
Chairman, can I speak?
Commissioner Jones, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to see you down there. Yes, I know.
I would just add that, having been part of those conversations, that one of the things we've done is, and the mayor's worked with Mr. France to bring us the whole gamut of all of the properties he follows up with. It's about one a day that he gets a call on. And we've been able to see how many clean up just by having somebody knock on their door and inquire versus how many need more. So some of the decision making is sort of pending in that we only have a couple months worth of data. So actually, we just started looking at that process in that level of detail. These ones have been around for a long time. We've all seen pictures and some things on these properties. And then just another point of clarification is that there was already 15,000 in the budget, so this is an additional 100, and it's meant to cover those back properties, but also provide funding for the current fiscal year for cleanups going forward. It's the actual cleanup fund.
All right.
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Eads?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, next resolution to consider and review is resolution number 20-09-04, resolution amending the fiscal year budget of 2020 to 2021, Washington County Environmental Startup Funding for administrative expenses associated with the environmental department. Pretty sure this is for tribal health, and it will represent $76,260 Motion, sir.
Motion made by Commissioner Eads to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald. Open the floor for questions or discussion. Commissioner Jones? Commissioner Jones, you didn't have a question, did you?
No, thank you, Bill.
I'm sorry, your light was still on. Question's been called by Commissioner Carrier. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, announce the vote, 11 yes, 2 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Eads?
Our last one, sir, will be resolution number 20-09-12, resolution authorizing amendments to the terms of the interlocal agreement and lease and other documents related to the Jonesboro proposal approve resolution number 19-10-20. I am going to defer those questions, if it please the commission and the chair, to our attorney, Alvin Wilkinson, and possibly Commissioner Wheeler, to work on the Jonesboro end of this interlocal agreement, because they will be more apt, I promise you, to answer the other questions that I will.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, as everyone in this commission knows, I represent the town of Jonesboro as the town attorney. And that relationship may lead someone to infer that it affects my vote on the measure for this commission. Therefore, I'm disclosing my representation of the town, and although my vote will be based on my independent and impartial analysis of the issue on its merits, my decision today is to recuse myself from voting on this measure. And I'll participate today as a representative of the town only with respect to this measure.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Wilkinson?
Yes, sir. And I'd like to thank the committee. When I came in front of you at the earlier part of this month, I told you that the town of Jonesboro had brought some documents, revisions, requests, amendments, that the lender had brought to them, and they brought them to the mayor and included me to review. Mr. Meredith was there, and some of the finance people who have been working with the town. And so I requested that you consider a resolution at this time so that the entire commission could look at it. Since then, I did send you all a memo, which I'm happy to condense. So I thank you very much for submitting this resolution to the commission so that everyone could look at the proposed amendments. The amendments are all to the responsibilities of the town of Jonesboro, which under the interlocal agreement has taken the responsibility to secure financing for that project. The changes that are requested are amendments that are regulatory in nature. In addition to reviewing the law on this point, I took some advice from lawyers that are very well versed in representing entities that are seeking governmental financing. These amendments are consistent with that. I reviewed the codes that are the basis for these requested amendments. None of these changes alter the rights of Washington County in the interlocal agreement or the building lease or the facilities lease. It does, however, ask to cancel the option agreement. So that is to take out that option agreement that was previously approved and instead substitute an agreement to accept title when everything is paid off, and it has a specific provision in there that ties to those other amendments, which is that Jonesboro, as the party securing the financing and requesting the issuance of bonds, maintains a relationship over that collateral with its lender. I think that's the super distilled version of all of these terms, so that the lender has the regulatory relationship to the collateral throughout the term of the financing. And if you don't have a copy of the memo or anything, I'm happy, I've got at least one with me, or if you have any questions. But I did put a recommendation in there that based on my review of the regulations, legal commentary, and consultation with counsel experienced in evaluating loan commitments, it is my opinion that the terms requested by the town of Jonesboro's lender cite authority and regulatory standards required by government financing and appear consistent with the types of conditions normally used in a government financing project. So it's my recommendation to you that you consider these terms as standard government authority changes that do not alter the obligations of Washington County. And also I thought it was fundamental to this opinion was the fact that the town of Jonesboro did assume the responsibility for financing, and that's what Washington County agreed to in the interlocal agreement. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have, if you have any.
Mr. Jones?
I just want to thank Attorney Wilkinson for preparing the memo. This was extremely helpful. Made it very there. And I also feel like, you owe another gratitude to Jonesboro, because looking through all this material, I realized how much work is going into just the loan process. So please tell everybody over there, thanks for making sure.
Were you going to make a motion, Commissioner Jones, or we don't have a motion?
I think I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and pass this resolution.
All right, that's resolution 200912.
Second.
We have a second, Commissioner Williams, second. All right, we'll open the floor for discussion. Questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll take us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote, lock it in. Nine yes, 3 no, 1 abstain. The resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner Eads?
No, sir, that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is the Public Records Commission. Commissioner Ford's not with us this evening. However, the report is enclosed, and I hope you've taken the time to read the report. It's a very interesting report. I got a lot out of it and was very impressed with the material. So, Mayor, if you would let us know, that's a great report. Appreciate that very much. The next item is the Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Will.
You'll find our minutes on page 185 of your packet, and we have two resolutions for your consideration tonight. First, resolution number 20-09-05. A resolution authorizing the replacement of certain mechanical equipment of the Detention Center's Hdhc from capital projects. This comes in the form of a motion to move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Eads to approve the resolution. Have any discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll take us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is resolution 20-09-06. Resolution authorizing the replacement of the Detention Center's fire alarm upgrade from capital project. Now on page 191 of the packet. This comes in form of a motion from the committee and others for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Have discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you will switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 0 absent, and the resolution passes, or 0 no's, and the resolution passes. All right, anything else, Commissioner Wood?
That concludes our report.
Thank you. Next report is the Public Works Committee. Commissioner Davenport.
Yes, you'll find our minutes on page 195. We have two resolutions tonight. The first resolution come to you in the form of a motion is 200907, resolution authorizing the disposition of Washington County Department surplus on gun vehicles.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Our second, Commissioner Lott. I've seen you have your hand up. I was trying to get ahead of myself tonight. Well, any questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Davenport?
Our next resolution is 2009-08. In the form of a motion is resolution to close Allen Phillip Drive located in the 2nd Civil District off of Bailey Bridge Road.
Motion made by Commissioner Davenport, second by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Anything else, Commissioner?
That's all.
Thank you. We do have a resolution for the purchasing commission. Who's our purchasing committee chairman? Commissioner Lott? Are you our purchasing commission chairman?
I think so. We got resolution 2009 to authorize the disposition of Washington County surplus property through govdeals.com. Kind of in the form of a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seconded by Commissioner Carrier. Motion made by Commissioner Lott. Discussion or questions? Call for question. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead. Cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes.
That's all we got.
Anything else, Commissioner Lott?
Oh, that's all.
All right, thank you. This item is the Washington County Library Board of Trustees report. Minutes is in your packet. Mayor Grandy, he's our representative on that board, and thank you for your service there. Mayor Grandy, if there's any questions, he'll be glad to answer. Seeing none, the next item is the Budget Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler.
You'll find our minutes on page 233 of your packet, and then we have several resolutions. These represent the environmental cleanups of the first several that have been on hold, and I think from the Budget Committee, we'd like to let Hugh know we appreciate their patience as we've worked our way through that. These did come through Hugh. To answer one of the points made earlier, I don't remember any of these. You know, we saw the photographs of packets when they came through. I don't remember any of them that was really like an overgrown as far as grass too high or something like that. There was some brush and stuff like that maybe, but nothing. So that they've been a long time coming, and I sat through most of the few meetings, but they've been patient with us on it.
Were all 5 of these held back, or is there a couple that are new?
No, all 5 of these have been held. All right, so the first one is resolution number 20-09-10, resolution approving funding for Tennessee Development District for solid waste planning advisors. Obviously, this is not an environmental. This is on page 244 of the packet. Comes in the form of a motion and from the committee and not made for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Malone to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Questions called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in.
Chairman, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Probably. Are we voting on all these at one time? Is that what?
Now, this is just the first one.
What is that first one?
That's a 2009-10. It's the first Tennessee Development District.
Okay.
Madam Clerk? Oh, sorry. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wood?
Our next resolution is resolution number 20-09-13, resolution amending fiscal year budget 20-2020-2021
regarding Washington County environmental funds appropriated for environmental cleanup reserve account, the cleanup of 5 properties that were previously referred by the committee, found on page 248 of your packet. This is to transfer the money, to allocate the money that you put into the budget for these cleanups.
You said you wrote that in the form of a motion.
Yes, I brought that from the motion to move for approval. Excuse me.
All right.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 11 yes, 2 no, the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution begins with individual properties. This is resolution number 20-09-14, found on page 253 of your packet. The resolution authorizing spending for fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding environmental court cleanup of property owned by Lane Terrace Rural, located at 105 Ray Rolls Road, Limestone, Tennessee. This comes to the form of a motion from the committee, and I move for approval on that.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution. Second by Commissioner. No, second. Second by Commissioner Malone. Commissioner Tester.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed that all 5 of these, the estimates don't match the amounts that are in resolutions. There's something I'm missing there. Some of them are close, but they're not. And I noticed, obviously, 2 of them, I guess, have to be rebid because they're over 10,000 and they're old bids. But I still would have thought the amounts would have matched.
I don't know. I thought it was my understanding that they had already gotten the new bid or the new estimate. So,
Like, for instance, this first one, the resolution says 29,900, but on page 257 where the bid is, it's 17,500.
it's a pretty big difference.
That's a pretty big difference, and all of them are a little different.
It has 4 things, 4 columns.
Is that the difference, legal, court costs and all that? Okay.
If there's something that goes, for example, if it's solid waste, then that comes from the
Tipping fees.
county tipping fees, and that would not be the estimate from a third-party vendor. We used the amount that had been brought forward when it went to HEW and to budget.
And all of them are more than the estimate, except for resolution 18, and it's actually a lower number than the estimate. The resolution is 2240, and the estimate was 3,000. That was page 273 and 277.
And that's the one on Big Bear Lane. I'll just jump in there.
Yes, ma'am.
To give you the background on this, and Director Meredith has included on page 251 of your packet, these are the amounts that were requested. Our office, currently, we're not the ones who brought them to the court. So these were the amounts that were requested in HEW that went forward from the environmental compliance officer to HEW from the order. So I'm going to look in my file here and see if I can give you detail for that. But the amount was the sum that had been deferred. And so I don't have the breakdown, but I do have the file, and I will see what I've got here. I didn't just happen to bring that file with me, and I'll see if I can get you that detail. But it was the amount that was requested in 2019, or when that was originally done. But I'll have to look and see what the basis for the amount was, because we were using the sum totals from the deferred action in budget committee. So that's what came out of HEW, I guess is the more concise way of saying it.
Well, the first four are all more, so it's probably the court costs and all that, so I guess we can move on while she's looking for.
Okay. Commissioner Harris?
On the first one, I've got a question. It's $29,900. That's an awful lot of money. I know, Ms. Rules, it's really a pitiful situation. Are we planning on tearing her house down? I don't know. For that amount of money, is that what we're approving?
I don't think there's any discussion. I don't think that we're tearing her house down or any kind of demolition. I think it was just for cleanup is my understanding of it. Yeah, just for cleanup only.
No tearing down or damaging anything.
Can we be assured of that?
The estimate does say removal of big barn, demo of other small buildings, pole barn, sheds, so it does appear maybe they are.
I don't think, I guess I was thinking more of her residence or her where she would abode at, but I don't.
She's an elderly lady and she's really having a hard time. Steve knows her well. I'm sure it's run a lot of course, but I wish we could, I don't know, find somebody to help her before we.
We've tried and tried. I think we need to get it back to zero, Ken. And then I don't think it'll take her away from the home.
Well, I'd like to know for sure. It's been her home for years. That's, if you knew her, and she's elderly, she still tries to work, and surely there's some group out here somewhere you would think that has anybody explored the options. Maybe I should have took it on myself to do it, but Boy Scout troops or church group or somebody that could help a lady in the shape that she's in. I mean, it's pitiful, ain't it, Steve?
Yes, it is.
I wish Mr. France was here with us tonight. I'm sure he's worked closely in this case.
I know he's done.
Put a lot of time in
I
it.
know he has. He does a fine job.
So, I mean, as far as,
I know her well. It's definitely some cleanup needs to be done.
He's 80-some years old and still trying to work to survive.
Commissioner Carrington?
There's an organization called Appalachian Service Project, and they do things like this, and I'll be happy to make an inquiry of them tomorrow
Please.
to let you know, but that's, right up their alley to go in and help elderly folks repair their houses, porches, ramps, so they can get the wheelchairs up and down. Mr. Chairman, I'll make that call tomorrow, and I'll report back to the chairman as to what I found out.
Can we defer this tonight till it gets down to the next time?
I would second the motion to defer this one until Mr. Carrier. I know in Unicoi County, things like that have been done before, and I know that group you're talking about, they're a fine organization.
They really are good. They do a great job.
Can I make the motion we defer it?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Is that to defer to next month?
Yeah. Our next meeting?
Or until we can check
Yeah.
the organization. Take care of it.
If there's no discussion on deferral, right?
If I may, Chair.
If there's no discussion on the deferral, you can go ahead and comment on.
Well, no, I am supportive of the deferral, actually. This was one of the ones where the dollars were getting significantly higher that I think caused many of us, especially on budget, to say, whoa, these
the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so I support the deferral, especially if there's an alternative course of action. This is one, though, that HEW has pushed forward, and budget, I think, was feeling a little pressure to move them on. And one question is this the one that's located adjacent to a church?
Yes.
Yes. You would have thought the church might have helped, but I think the church is actually the one that may have complained.
That's what I've been
It's a
told.
long story, yeah, I've heard of it before, yeah.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into much more discussion on this issue, let's put Commissioner Carrier to work and take him up on his offer. And we have a motion and a second to defer to our next meeting. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Right, motion passes, and that item will be deferred to our next Budget Committee agenda next month, right? Not the Budget Committee agenda, but the Commission agenda.
Our next resolution is Resolution 20-9-15, a resolution authorizing extending fiscal year budget 2020 to 2021 regarding environmental cleanup of property owned by Tony M. Malazio, located at 3661 Old State Route 34, Limestone, Tennessee, found at page 258 of your packet. This comes in the form of motion from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler. Second. Seconded by Commissioner Malone. Any discussion or questions?
Well, the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk announces the vote 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is resolution number 20-09-16, resolution authorizing spending for fiscal year budget 2020 to 2021 regarding environmental court cleanup of property owned by Sandra Childs and Wilma Crow, located at 119 and 121 Clyde Miller Drive, Telford, Tennessee. Found on page 263 of your packet. This comes in the form of motion from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Eames. To approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Question's been called for. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Mr. Wheeler?
Next is resolution number 20-9-17, a resolution authorizing spending for fiscal year budget 2020 to 2021 regarding environmental cleanup of property owned by the estate of Dwight M. Hunt, care of Conrad Cox, personal representative, located at Big Bear Lane, Jonesboro, Tennessee. Found at page 268 of your packet. This comes in the form of a motion from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carrier. Discussion? Question? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, please. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
The next resolution is resolution 20-9-18, resolution authorizing spending of fiscal year budget 2020 to 2021 regarding environmental court cleanup of property owned by Dwight M. Hunt Trust, care of Robin Adams, trustee, docket number CV 59792, located at 127 Big Bear Lane, Jonesboro, Tennessee. Found on page 273 of your packets. This comes in the form of a motion from the committee, and I move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Malone. Discussion or question?
This is the one that,
Mr. Kessler?
this is the one that's focused on looking at.
And I do not have any additional information. I did not bring the individual files. I don't know if Mr. Flynn said anything further, but I can tell you that we use the amounts, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, so, but we use the amounts that had been recommended out of HEW that were deferred in the budget. So we use those sum totals without mincing into the specifics.
So the estimate's 3,000 and the resolution says 2,240. If it's not enough, I guess we'll come back next month and add more money.
Well, or we can defer it to next month, with the other one, make sure the numbers is right. Commissioner Wheeler?
Chairman, if the bid comes back in and we funded it to 2,400, we get it done to 2,400, and pass it tonight and allow it to go ahead and move forward. If the bid comes in more than that, it's not a matter of they spend the money and then we have to put more money in, they'll have to come back before they accept the bid. So I would suggest maybe we encourage the bidder to bid 2,400 and go ahead and get to work.
Are we rebidding all of them or just the $10,000 ones?
We're rebidding all of them.
All of them?
That's more of a, that's not a purchasing thing so much as a court thing to be able to collect this.
And also for your benefit, I can tell you this about the two that are on Big Bear Lane. The improvement, the home is right on the line. It's two different parcels. That's my recollection of it. And so it would probably behoove the county to do these two resolutions together, even though they are owned differently. That is why Mr. France brought them forward together.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Tester. So we do have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion or questions?
Oh, go ahead.
Questions been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Ready to cast your vote, lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any old business to report this evening. We do have a resolution 2009-11. It's a resolution approving the election of notaries public for appointment and or reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Motion, Commissioner Light moves to approve the resolution. Seconded by Commissioner Carrier. Discussion or questions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 0 no, and the resolution passes. All right, new business this evening. We do have the resignation letter of Commissioner Larry England, effective September the 28th, 2020, and that does create a vacancy in District 7. Commissioner England, would you have any words you'd like to express to us this evening before we take the motion to accept your resignation?
Well, just Debbie and I have moved into our new home. We now reside in Commissioner Carrier's district, but it's a really nice neighborhood. I would like to thank Mayor Grandy for his support and guidance over the past couple of years, and his staff, Allison and her staff, all the other elected and appointed officials here tonight. Thank them for their support, guidance over the years. Thank Chairman Madley for his guidance over the past 6 years, especially over the past few months of the pandemic. I do not envy your job whatsoever. And the fact that you were reappointed tonight just shows that the commission has all their faith in you. But it has been an honor to serve with you ladies and gentlemen over the past few years. As Madam
Chairman Manley pointed out, we don't always see eye to eye on the topic, but I've said many times that everyone in the same room is thinking alike. Someone's not thinking. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're going to miss you. But there's always room here at the Washington County Commission. We will find that you have something to do. So, Commissioner McAllister thought he was getting off the hook.
Yeah.
But we didn't let him get off so easy. So, just remember that. All right, do we have a motion to accept Commissioner England's resignation?
You're going to stay on?
Wait a minute.
Mr. Chairman, I so moved. Accept.
Motion made by Commissioner Carrier, seconded by Commissioner Davenport to accept his resignation. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you, Commissioner England. We appreciate your service. Appreciate all you've done and your friendship, most of all. Well, I have one more thing to kind of throw in here on this miscellaneous announcement. Our joint meeting has been proposed by the Washington County School Board. And they have proposed this meeting for October 22nd in the large room at the McKinney Center at 6 p.m. However, I think there is a lot of thinking to be done in how we get that done with the video guy and our sound system and all those things that require us to do. I know, Mayor, they contacted your schedule about that as well, right? At some point in time.
Not yet.
They said that you were clear. But if anybody has any thoughts on that before we move on, it would be, I don't know the exact equipment, Commissioner Wheeler, that the McKinney Center would have, and then I'm thinking of everyone talking and video. I mean, I just don't know how that.
I don't know if they'll have that number of mics available. I just don't know the answer to that. I would be surprised if they had that many, but they have put on some production there.
And we know what the agenda is, what the purpose of this meeting is?
Well, they would, I think they have a new chairman and vice chairman to school board. And they were to meet with us and kind of give us some thoughts and their goals and objectives of moving ahead these years. Of course, we have new members there on the school board, and I think they just wanted more of a school board, county commission, more or less of a workshop or discussion between us of addressing their needs and their objectives. Commissioner Edens?
Can you repeat the date and time, please?
That would be October the 22nd at 6 p.m. at the McKinney Center.
Thank you, sir.
And there again, with the entire commission and the entire school board and the school board staff and of course the mayor and some of the mayor's staff and the county attorney, and I just, you know, I don't know what, I wanted to kind of just discuss this a minute to kind of feel your all's views of what that looked like, or should we think we should delay that just a little bit and see if things will get you better.
I'd rather delay it.
Commissioner Davenport?
Without seeing the agenda and see the urgency of what we need to talk about, I would be deferring it, but I don't know what they want to discuss and how they want to handle that meeting, so it may be urgent.
And truly, I think they would probably work on that agenda, developing that agenda more They've still got almost a month to work on it. I think they had some ideas, you know, I don't, and I can't say exactly what that agenda looks like because I hadn't seen it. But it was to present some of their ideas or their thoughts to us. I think some of the new school board members, and like I said, it had a change in some of the leadership there. So, maybe, you know, I don't want to put everybody on the spot today, so maybe we could send our thoughts to Teresa. Would you care to gather our thoughts for a couple of days?
Sure.
We can email Teresa with your thoughts on it, and she can kind of put it together. And like I said, if I have any more information about it, they just wanted to make sure I had an answer on October 22nd at 6 o'clock. Right now, currently, I don't know what the agenda is, so it's hard for me to bring that out. But if I get more on the agenda, Commissioner Williams.
Chairman, I think it is important, though, especially with them having new leadership, some new members, that they know that if they want to meet, even if it's just
they do.
Then we're going to do it at some point. It's just a matter of when, and that we want to know if they're going to feed us like they usually do.
They did say that we were having a box lunch. Now, that's okay.
They usually do a pretty good box lunch.
Mr. Howe?
He's gone.
He's coming back. Welcome to our meeting, Mr. Howe. We haven't seen you. So, all right. But anyway, they would like to meet with us. And yeah, I'm really not that familiar. I know the size of the Bikini Center. I just don't know if our video man or the video guy's ready to travel over there. He's pretty flexible. So he can travel. I worry about our sound. I worry about our sound tonight. I worry about all the people together in the same way. So.
I have a question.
Commissioner Jones.
Has the school board thought that through? I mean, they requested the meeting, have they, I guess you did say they've done some performances and stuff over there, but.
We just had a board member here that could give us some insight from the school board. Is that all?
Yeah.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
And we have a twofold problem in this meeting. One is the sound, but the other is that we sometimes can't get YouTube to let us stream, so we end up having to record and then post later. And it seems to me that's a county YouTube channel problem. Am I right, Susan?
You are correct.
And it wouldn't be an issue if it were the school board YouTube or maybe some other place. Maybe we need to find out what their thoughts are on how to get the meeting made available to the public.
It's my understanding there were some changes made by YouTube in the past week that have limited the capabilities for live streaming.
Commissioner.
I know that you guys are all, and gals are all around here really quickly, but let me explain, number one, the problem that you saw here tonight, and number two, the problems you have going straight to Facebook or YouTube. First of all, it is very easy to live stream a meeting, even one with 4 or 5 multiple cameras, but you can't do it all relying on a Wi-Fi signal, which is what we've tried to do here. What further complicates that in this room is the fact that your roll call RevoLab system, where we now have 20 microphones, all operate in the same RF band, and it takes over that band. And then you bring these phones in here that all operate in that same band. It won't work. It just won't work in a low power situation. So to live stream an event such as this, you hardwire it, you run video cameras, and you switch it, and you post it up to the website, to an RTMP website that then sends it on to Facebook, and then that takes care of all that codec matching and all that stuff that you experience trouble with. So it's not a big deal to do it. It takes some forethought and some planning and some testing ahead of time. We tested every mic in here an hour before you guys walked in this room, and every one of them worked flawlessly. We did it 4 times. The only thing that changed is we added many more Wi-Fi devices. And I can't do anything, we can't do anything about that, using this structure. But could you go to the McKinney Center and bring in somebody to do the whole thing? I did Jonesboro's meeting 2 months ago. Takes me 3 hours to set it up. It's easy. It's not that big a deal. It can be done, but you do want to address it ahead of time. Thanks.
I agree with you, Todd. I guess that's one of the reasons I bring it up tonight. If that's something we're going to be able to do, we need to know, pretty quickly. All right. Any thoughts or motions or want to think about that till tomorrow? Commissioner Malone?
Well, related, and you kind of touched on it, but throughout the course of the meeting, I have kind of wondered, and I don't know the public issues, but I know we had somebody turned away tonight, a public, a citizen of Washington County that wanted to attend the meeting, had called me earlier today thinking, and I thought they would be able to attend, and they weren't, which is fine, but I sent them home saying, you can watch it on YouTube. And then I get a text from them saying, I can't watch it on YouTube. And so I just worry about this meeting essentially having taken place in private. We did have a member of the media here for a portion of the meeting, and I know that this is going to be posted out on social media after the fact, but I have sat here during the meeting wondering about the fact that this meeting has taken place mostly in private, and that worries me.
Allison, would you like to address that, please?
It is a concern to ensure that there's access to the meeting, either in person. I'd rather, with the chairman's permission, address it specifically as to what the circumstances were. We just heard from Mr. Hensley that an hour before it had been tested, so I don't know if it means that everyone coming in would have to not have their phone on. Whatever it is that the county, I know, has every intention of making its meetings public, open, and available to the public. I've heard that consistently from the county. I know that's your intention. As counsel to the county, I share the concern and would like to look at the specific facts before I comment as to, where we are with this. We did, with the chairman's foresight, have the electronic participation, so at least we are able to post it, and hopefully it will be audible when it is posted. But I know that doesn't address the total concern, so.
No.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate that. But one thing for sure, a sure way is to correct the audio is to go back to Senate. And Allison has spoken about that several times. That does meet the threshold. That's the Allison.
Yes, sir. The rules will change a little bit in October for us, but if the county is Zooming the meeting and you have a clear, audible meeting available to the public, and it's under the governor's order allowing it, that is better, I would say, as a general rule, than a meeting that the public cannot physically access by entering the room or hear when it's on YouTube. One or the other needs to be available for it to be an open meeting.
And another thing, as Commissioner Malone brought up, he wanted somebody to come down and look around. I've had many people call in the last 10 days that was interested in coming down. One of the things that restricts us is our social distancing requirements here in the courthouse. Judge Rice has a steady order, isn't that right, Sheriff?
Yes, we have total capacities in each room, there's a certain number.
And we try to do that, to honor those, the court's rules and be accommodating as best we possibly can. One of the things, you know, is who do you tell can and can't come? You know, we have officials, we have people here that have agenda business, and then other than that, it's live stream. And it's definitely hard to, you know, each month there's tough decisions to make as how that goes. Who, you know, are you on the agenda or are you not? And like Commissioner Long said, it comes down to just really, even to just today, you know, I have several inquiries today. Commissioner Meredith?
Mr. Chairman, if I might indulge you in the commission and put on my Board of Education board member hat, I just actually received a text from our newly elected board chair, Jason Day, and just wanted to, the request to meet with the commission had actually come from the chair, which the board hasn't acted on it, but I think that they would. The Board of Education will be meeting in a retreat in a couple of weeks to start developing their strategic plan for the next 5 years. And I think part of the process was for the board to meet with the commission, who is the board's primary funding body, to share some of their vision so that you all are aware of the direction that the Board of Education is planning to take. And I think that was the impetus for the request for the meeting. So at some time in the future, I do think it would be helpful for both bodies to, you know, look at common goals. You know, Board of Education is here to serve the students of Washington County and vis-a-vis the employers of Washington County, and therefore all the residents of Washington County. Working closely with the commission, I think, is important. So.
And that's what the board chair expressed to me, Mitch, you know, and developing, you know, goals, objectives that the school board was looking at, and I'm sure getting ready for this retreat is important, and I told him that I would, felt like it'd be better just to wait for this evening, so we would all have an opportunity to discuss that. Definitely 15 heads are better than one on issues like this when it affects everybody. So, if there's no objection, we'll try to work toward it. Yes, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones.
Another thing that might be nice is once you know, Hugh gets together, is maybe there's some sharing of that agenda. You know, there may be things that we want to. I like the idea of getting together. We haven't had a shared meeting with the school board in a long time. It's a really good idea.
That's right.
But the agenda might be co-created. It can be a mutual kind of shared activity. Maybe things we want to bring as well. You may have some ideas in the meeting next week.
That'd be great. So do we want to try to press forward and develop something for the 22nd at 6 p.m.?
I think so.
Is there any objection to that? All right. I will press forward for something on the 22nd. And if it all goes bad, it'll be Commissioner Wheeler's fault. The vice chairman, you know, that's what he's there for. But he does have some good contacts in Jonesboro, so hopefully he will get that worked out for us. And I'll shoot for these dates and a box lunch and 6 o'clock. And so if you'll put that on your calendar tentatively, and if we can't get it worked out, we'll be sure to let you know. Last item was the agenda cutoff, Thursday, October the 15th at noon. And we have a motion to adjourn, and Commissioner Lott, you move to adjourn.
Yes, I do.
Second, by Commissioner Reeves. All in favor? Adjourning? Signify by saying aye.